Hello, readers. I know it's been a while. The kids got kind of bored with the never-ending story.
Been like a year.
It has not been a year, but anyway.
Yes, it has.
The kids got bored with the never-ending story, and so we stopped reading it, and quarantine happened, and everything went into chaos, so we are starting back up again with a brand new book, which is from one of my favorite series, and if you haven't read it, I hope you enjoy it too. And I hope the kids like it, because I'm kind of tired of book hopping, so we'll see what happens.
Everything is chapter 5.
That's only in The Princess Bride.
Shush.
So we're reading a trilogy that's from Anne McCaffrey's World of Pern. And we're starting with the one that is, I think, most accessible to kids Elliot and Charlotte's age. So the first book is called...
Get your stanky feet off my end of the couch, Elliot.
The first book is called Dragonsong.
Get your
Okay, both of you get yourself set.
Get your stanky feet off my end of the couch.
Okay, Elliot, Elliot Waxler Woodard, get your feet to yourself. Don't you smile at me when you know you're antagonizing your sister. Already it begins. Okay, guys, do you want me to read you the foreword that sort of explains what's going on the planet, or do you just want me to get right into the story?
Yes.
Forward. Yes, forward. Okay. This is the foreword to Dragonsong. Rookbot in the Sagittarian sector was a golden G-type star. It had 5 planets, 2 asteroid belts, and a stray planet it had attracted and held in recent millennia. When men first settled on Rookbot's third world and called it Pern, they had taken little notice of the stranger planet, swinging about its adopted primary in a wildly erratic elliptical orbit. For 2 generations, the colonists gave the bright red star little thought, until the path of the wanderer brought it close to its stepsister at perihelion. Then, the spore life, which proliferated at an incredible rate on the red star's wild surface, spun off into space and bridged the gap to Pern. The spores fell as thin threads on the temperate, hospitable planet and devoured anything organic in their way, seeking to establish burrows in Pern's warm earth from which to set out more voracious threads. The colonists suffered staggering losses in terms of people scored to death, and in crops and vegetation wiped out completely. Only fire killed thread on land. Only stone and metal stopped its progress. Fortunately, it drowned in water, but the colonists could scarcely live on the seas. The resourceful men and women cannibalized their transport ships, and abandoning the open southern continent where they had touched down, set about making the natural caves in the northern continent habitable. They evolved a 2-phase plan to combat thread. The first phase involved breeding a highly specialized variety of a life form indigenous to their new world. The dragons, named for the mythical Terran beast they resembled, had 2 extremely useful characteristics. They could get from one place to another instantly by teleportation, and when they had chewed a phosphine-bearing rock, they could emit a flaming gas. Thus, the flying dragons could char thread to ash mid-air and escape its ravages themselves. Men and women with high empathy ratings or some innate telepathic ability were trained to use and preserve these unusual animals, partnering them in a lifelong and intimate relationship. The original cave fort, constructed in the eastern face of the Great West Mountain Range, soon became too small to hold either the colonists or the great dragons. Another settlement was started slightly to the north by a great lake, conveniently nestled near a cave-filled cliff. Ruathahold, too, became overcrowded in a few generations. Since the red star rose in the east, it was decided to start a holding in the eastern mountains, provided suitable accommodations could be found. The ancient cave-pocked cones of extinct volcanoes in the Bendon Mountains proved so suitable to the dragon men and women that they searched and found several more throughout Pern, and left Fort Hold and Ruathahold for the pastoral colonists, the Holders. However, such projects took the last of the fuel for the great stonecutters, originally thought to be used for the most diffident mining, since Pern was light on metals, and any subsequent holds and weirs were hand-hewn. The dragons and their riders and their weirs, and the people in the cave holdings went about their separate tasks, and each developed habits that became custom, which solidified in tradition as incontrovertible as law. By the third... Yes?
I was wondering, why didn't they just get the heck out of there?
So this is explained in another book, but they only had enough fuel to get to the planet. They didn't have enough fuel to leave again. So once they got there, they either had to, this is, in the story that tells about the colonization, it explains the way humans colonize the various galaxies, which is by sending them out, and then they have to go and survive on their own. They live or they die, and that's how they populate the universe. Okay?
And eventually, I'm guessing that they reconnect.
I'll have to find out in another book. Right now, I'm going to read this one, okay? Mm-hmm. Okay. By the third pass of the Red Star, a complicated social, political, and economic structure had developed to deal with the recurrent evil of thread. There were now 6 weirs, pledged to protect all Pern, each weir having a geographical section of the northern continent literally under its wings. The rest of the population, the holds, agreed to tithe to support the weirs, since these fighters, these dragon men, did not have any arable land in their volcanic homes, nor did they have time for farming while protecting the planet from passes of the thread. Holds developed wherever natural caves could be found. Some, of course, were extensive or strategically placed near good water and grazing. Others were smaller and less well placed. It took a strong man to keep frantic, terrified people in control in the holds during threat attacks. It took wise administration to conserve food supplies for times when nothing could be safely grown. Extraordinary measures controlled population, keeping its numbers healthy and useful until such time as the thread should pass. And often children from one hold were raised in another hold to spread the genetic pool and keep the holds from dangerous inbreeding. Such a practice was called fostering and was used in both holds and craft halls, where special skills such as metalworking, animal breedings, farming, fishing, and mining, such as there was, were preserved. So that one Lord Holder could not deny the products of a craft hall situated in his hold to others, the crafts were decreed independent of a hold affiliation, each craftmaster at a hall owing allegiance only to the master of that particular craft who, as the need arose, took likely students in as fosterlings. Except for the return of the Red Star approximately every 200 years, life was pleasant on Pern. There came a time when the Red Star, due to the conjunction of Rukbat's 5 natural satellites, did not pass close enough to Pern to drop the dreadful spores, and the Pernese forgot about the danger. The people prospered, spreading out across the rich land, carving more holds out of solid rock and becoming so busy with their pursuits that they did not realize that there were only a few dragons in the skies, and only 1 weir of dragon riders left on Pern. In a few generations, the descendants of the holders began to wonder if the Red Star would ever return. The dragon riders fell into disfavor. Why should all Pern support these people and their hungry beasts? The legends of past braveries and the very reason for such courage became dishonored. But, in the natural course of events, the Red Star again spun close to Pern, winking with a baleful red eye on its intended victim. One man, Flar, rider of the Bronze Menmouth, believed that the ancient tales had truth in them. His half-brother Fnor, rider of Brown Kent, listened to his arguments and came to believe. When the last golden egg of a dying queen lay hardening on the Bend Weir hatching ground, Flar and Fnor seized the opportunity to gain control of the weir. Searching Ruatha Hold, they found a strong woman, Lessa, the only surviving member of the proud bloodline of Ruatha Hold. She impressed young Ramoth, the new queen, and became weirwoman of Ben and Weir, and Flar's Bronze Menmouth became the new queen's mate. The 3 young riders, Flar, Fnor, and Lessa, forced the Lord Holders and the craftsmen to recognize their imminent danger and prepare the almost defenseless planet against threat. But it was distressingly obvious that the scant 200 dragons of Bend and Weir could not defend the widespread and sprawling settlements. 6 full weirs had been needed in the olden days when the settled land had been much less extensive. In learning to direct her queen between one place and another, Lessa discovered that dragons could teleport between times as well. Risking her life, as well as Pern's only queen, Lessa and Ramoth went back in time 400 turns to the days before the mysterious disappearance of the other 5 weirs, just after the last pass of the Red Star had been completed. The 5 Weirs, seeing only the decline of their prestige and bored with inactivity after a lifetime of exciting combat, agreed to help Lessa and Per, and came forward to her time. Dragonsong begins 7 turns after the 5 Weirs came forward.
And that's why they disappeared.
Yeah.